We love Rachael Maurice. She is a former anesthesiologist. I'm going to let her share her story with that, but she's incredible. She's out of Canada. And so, as you all know, we are available in 80 countries around the world, and Canada being the US's neighbor, it's a great place to build a business. This woman is wise. I have spent some time with her and her dear friend Diane, and they are just brilliant beyond measure. So we appreciate you, Rachael, being on today. Can you share a little bit too about how you're a former anesthesiologist?
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. So thank you for everyone for taking the time out of their Saturday to be here as well. And yes, I worked as an anesthesiologist all the way up until went through all of my schooling till 2021. So 20 years. And I walked away in 2021 because of my, I will say, ethics, morality, and wanting to make sure that I had control over my own health and that of my family's. And I didn't think I'd be gone for very long. And I don't sit idle too well. A lot of things that I was being told to do in the hospital setting was the opposite of what I had been doing for the previous 30 years. And so I was doing a lot of digging and uncovering information that I'd not been taught in my conventional medical education. And one of those things I came across was that light is the driver of all of our physiology. So modern medicine focuses on the biochemistry of the body, and it's not to say that that's wrong, but it's very incomplete. And that means that how we can actually use therapies is very incomplete and limited. And so when I came across this idea, I started doing so much digging and research. I know Dr. Jane's been looking at phototherapy or using it for 30 years, but this was my introduction to it. And I just became fascinated with it and dove very deep for a few years. And then I came across these patches in 2024. And so for me, it was not a hard leap to understand that this could actually work because of what I'd just been studying for the previous 3 years.
Wow, I love that story because, it's always been there, right? But it's that old saying, like, you don't know what you don't know. And until you focus on something and look in that direction, you may, never have been utilizing light, like you said. And so I love that just by you being open to it, there's certainly like, why not? There's an openness that has to happen with people even trying the technology.
And I think it's credible, Rachael, like you said, practicing for 30 years and then an anesthesiologist for 20 years, but something new, right? Something new. And again, this openness that you had to kind of just humble yourself and always kind of be searching for what could benefit your patient, what could benefit people, to have the results that they're looking for, that you were trained and educated to really guide and provide them with. And the other thing that you mentioned that just comes to my mind is how this LifeWave company is attracting professionals like you that have so much integrity, that have just high ethics, so constantly just looking for, how can you benefit your patient, your client, and how can you kind of be on the right path constantly to find products that are going to help people.
Great alignment. I always say alignment is assignment. So I have a question. So if the patch works through the use of light, why can't the sun just do this for us? Dr. Rachael, why can't we get just these same benefits from the sun that we're getting from the patch?
Right. I love this question because so many people ask it. Quite a few medical professionals have asked that of me. And one of the things I actually start out with is the fact that our modern world, the way humans live today, is very different from how we lived ancestrally. And most of us live over 90% of our lives indoors. So we are not exposed to sunlight. And then when we are exposed to it, we're told to cover with clothing, with sunscreen, with sunglasses, and limit it to maybe 20 minutes a day for that UVB exposure to make vitamin D. So what I often will tell people is if we lived like our ancestors did, under the light for however long, from sunrise to sunset, harnessed the darkness, lived in connection with the earth, ate local and seasonal. We didn't have any extra things in our food, water, and air that were going to not make us or not keep us healthy. Right. We might not necessarily need a tool, but the sunlight has a bunch of different spectrums, which we all need. It is our power source, right? And this tool, David Schmidt, is just absolutely brilliant. So he figured out how to harness specific frequencies that we make to signal our body to have an effect. So it's using the patch is using a specific frequency to have a specific effect in the body. So it's different, and sunlight is not necessarily going to increase whatever peptide it is that we're looking at, or energy, or have whatever effect it is we're specifically looking at.
Love that you're mentioning all the different modalities of health. You know, that's very much in alignment with our founder and inventor, right? David Schmidt, when he talks about, you know, this patch adjunctively helping us alongside the other health practices that we have that are all really important, you know? So, you know, you talked a little bit about the different light spectrums in the sun, and you know, how does the patch from your perspective, you know, differ from like red light panels, red light therapy, that sort of thing?
Yeah, again, another great question that comes up a lot. And the red light panels, specifically when good quality ones, have usually 4 frequencies, 4 wavelengths, 2 in the near infrared wavelength range and 2 in the red. So there's 4 frequencies, and those red light and infrared specifically act on specific respiratory proteins in what's called the electron transport chain, which people don't have to understand that, but they specifically act to increase ATP production, if people have heard of that term, as well as water production in the mitochondria, which basically increases energy. It increases the efficiency of the mitochondria, which produces energy. They do many more things than that, but that's what most people understand. So we're increasing energy, increasing ATP, increasing that water production. And these patches, again, like I said earlier, they specifically increase a peptide, the X39, the GHK-Cu peptide. And so that's not something that a red light panel does. So it is a very different effect. It also increases mitochondrial efficiency as well, but a red light panel does not increase those peptides specifically.
Wow. I mean, so you're talking like with this patch, it is a specific frequency of light that's coming in to really activate that GHK or that copper peptide.
Yes.
And so even though all these other things may be fantastic for us,
Oh,
again,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I have 3 red light panels in my home, and I use them when I'm not able to expose myself to the natural light as much as I'd like.
Yeah.
Yeah, in our home, we built a red light phototherapy bed, and it costs like $40,000, and it's, you know,
Right.
the size of a dining room table.
Yeah.
You know,
And now
just
we moved
enormous
to the
thing.
panhandle, so we're like, we get red light every day. We don't need that bed anymore. So we just put the patches on because, you know, even with all of the red light and all the sunlight that we were getting, Dr. Rachel, we still weren't getting that copper peptide. So that's why when we put the patch on, it transformed our family's health.
Mhm.
Because even though we were doing some of these other things, these modalities that you're talking about, they weren't the patch, right? The patch is so unique and so special.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I mean, that will tie into so many other things that I think, but I've never seen, and I know this is myself personally, in the 30 years I've been in medicine, I've never seen anything like this.
Wow.
So Renita and I, we've our anniversary with Lifewave is coming up June 27th. Well, here, so it's a 4-year anniversary for us. That's today.
Today.
And you know, so personally, we have all these incredible testimonies. Of course, we're a part, as you are, of This Is It team, fastest growing team in Lifewave. So we have all these incredible testimonies, right? So from your perspective, you just said, so medicine for 30 years, anesthesiology for 20 years, compared to some of the things that you've seen over the course of your career, what are some of the different things that stand out from your perspective, from your opinion, with these Lifeway patches? What are you seeing?
Well, what I want to just share with people, and I'm being very I'm humbling myself here because it sounds a little odd and maybe common sense to almost everybody else listening, but we were not taught in medicine that the body heals itself. We were not taught that.
Wow.
And to come to that understanding, that's something that actually came a few years prior. But when I look at my career, and I understand now how modern medicine works, and I'm going to exclude emergency medicine, that's completely different. But when we're looking at how chronic disease is managed, That's exactly what it is. It's managed. It's either we try to stabilize things as much as possible or prevent the decline or help people alleviate some symptoms, but we're never actually healing people. And we're not healing people anyways to begin with, because the body heals itself, but we're not allowing people or giving them the support that they need to heal. And with these patches, what I've seen in 2 years, because it's been just over 2 years for myself, I have seen people's symptoms, and this is just my experience, this is not any medical claim, but I've seen people's symptoms be alleviated. They don't have them anymore, and they're not having to use the same medications or supplements that they used to have to use. They're more comfortable, and their quality of life just has improved so significantly to the point where I have not seen this happen in the 30 years that I've been in medicine. And to the point where I know in the back of my mind, and this was a subconscious thing, I wasn't quite aware of this until later on, but because of everything that I saw, and I saw the complications, which is just the nature of intervention, right? And I was in an acute setting in a hospital, in the operating room, in the ICUs. So I saw the complications, and it's the nature of invasive intervention. But in the back of my mind, I knew I had to make sure I was as healthy as I possibly could be, because I did not want to end up in a situation that I saw on a regular basis daily and worked within.
Yeah, I always say, if you got to stay out of the hospital, unless, like you said, it's an acute crisis situation. But if we can avoid that, let's do that. But a lot of times when you go to the hospital, it's not a health promoting thing in there. So I mean, that's just saying it plainly. But it's shocking to me that in medical school, on the journey somewhere, you were not trained or taught or heard God designed the body to heal. Like that's like shocking to me, because of course I would think that would be like day one of medical school.
I know. And it was actually Joe Dispenza when I heard his story, and he was explaining how he thought back to chiropractic school, where he was thinking and taught the power that made the body heals the body. And I thought, wait, what? I wasn't taught that.
Wow, I love that.
So you were a part of the hospital setting as a part of your career. I can just say, from my perspective, going into a hospital or elderly care unit or something like that, it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call. And I think sometimes, just realizing that, if we can do something simple to fight back, if it's non-invasive, just as you said, really have nothing to lose. So, it's amazing that you have that perspective as a profession, as your career, but just all of us have had that experience, walking in maybe to visit a family member or a friend, and you're in that environment, and it's a wake-up call. You kind of have this paradigm saying, like, is there something that I could do that's simple, that's affordable, that could make a difference? So, really blessed to be a part of it. So we got one last question for you. We wish we could spend hours with all of you,
Yeah.
because, the information that you're giving us is such a benefit. But so your colleague, Dr. Jane, actually also talked a little bit about injections, and he said, the injection of copper peptide. So many of us don't like needles. I know I don't, and not a proponent of the injections. But let me ask you this: if I were taking copper peptide injections already, why would I still want to use the X39 patch?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, because there's a lot of attention given to these injections nowadays. And
Right.
just like I was talking about how I wasn't taught the body heals itself, there's something that we do understand in medicine, and maybe we don't necessarily focus on, but there's what's called homeostasis. So the body is always trying to get back to balance. And we have so many things going on in our body. We have at minimum 100,000 reactions taking place every second in every cell of the body. And we have 30 to 50 trillion cells. That requires a lot of coordination and fast and timing. And all of those reactions, we don't know all of them. Medicine, we've only scratched the surface at knowing what's going on. And when we start to incorporate things from outside, what we call exogenous, we take things in from outside of the body, we can cause a lot of imbalances in other areas and other reactions that are going on that we have no idea we are tampering with. And so just like we talk about a basic chemistry reaction, A plus B equals C, and we start adding and flooding the body with C, we're going to start to affect A and B and all of the cofactors and enzymes that, again, are creating lots of imbalances that we have no idea are going to affect the body. So for me, using something natural, the body already knows what it's supposed to do with it. It's not going to make too much of it. It's going to do exactly what it needs to do with its own resources. And I know, and I'm speaking from, you mentioned this and it just made me think of this, Scott, but my entire career was giving drugs. Like my entire career was injecting drugs into people and trying to balance things from an outside perspective. And yes, for surgery and keeping people alive. And that was at the time what I had to do. But it caused a lot of effects in people that I saw, but I also didn't see. And short term, but also long term, that's maybe just not followed up or the research is not necessarily done there. So to me, it is way better to use our own natural resources than to take something in from the outside because we just don't know. There's a wisdom to the body that we will never understand.
I love it. I love it. And, we always say endogenous versus exogenous, right? And exogenous is an outside source coming in, and endogenous is the natural ability to regenerate, restore, and rejuvenate, right? So just kind of tapping into that innate God-designed ability that we all have. Wow. Dr. Rachael, you are a blessing, sister. Again, we could listen to you all day. We certainly appreciate you. I'm sure we'll hear more from you in the future, probably at This Is It event coming up here. But thank you so much. Any final words that you'd say to everybody watching that is thinking about wearing this patch? Because we've got a lot of new guests on here today.
I would just say personally, it is the top thing that I do aside from lifestyle, because it's never a replacement for a healthy lifestyle, but it is the top tool. If I were to suggest or recommend one thing, it is the one thing that I would use because our body needs support in this modern world where we have way more stress than we were designed to experience.
Wow. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Have a great day.